Hey, Warpugs. So, Goliath Xanatos wanted me to check out something from SCP Explained Story Animation. This is SCP-5094, Mrs. J's Whiz Kidz Schoolhouse. For some reason, this reminds me a lot of the Wayside School books from when I was a kid. I can't remember what the name of the teacher was. It was like Wayside School is Falling Down. But anyhow, the school that was built vertically and was multiple stories tall, about 30 stories tall, and then the school got shut down because cows came in at the end and herded up everything. But then again, it's been, 30 years since I've read anything like that? 32, 33? God, I'm old. Yeah, I'm an old bag. Warbugs, help. Anyhow, this is Mrs. J's Whiz Kidz Schoolhouse. Now, it's been a little bit since I've seen anything from SCP. I know. But let's jump into this. Let's see what this is about. This is how you turn a kid into Einstein, apparently. Let's go.
It was the year 2000, and 7-year-old Zenya Chow was like a lot of children her age. Bright, but ignored. She had a youthful enthusiasm for knowledge and learning, and with the right encouragement, it was obvious she'd go on to do great things. But her parents were both working 2 jobs apiece to make ends meet. So outside of school hours, little Zenya spent a lot of her time alone. She learned to cook and clean for herself, since it would often be way past her bedtime when her parents finally got home from work. They communicated largely through sticky notes left for her on the fridge before they left for work in the morning. It would be easy for someone like Zenya to fall through the cracks, her potential wasted, and get forced into the same endless rat race as her parents. And that probably would have happened if her brush with SCP-5094 hadn't changed the course of her life forever. Like a lot of parents who couldn't spend as much time with their children as they'd like, Mr. and Mrs. Chow gave Zenya occasional gifts as a way to try and make up for their absence. Mostly, they gave Zenya new books to add to her growing collection, but their 2-bedroom apartment only had so much space for books. A year ago, the family had bought a new desktop computer to share. These days, this would be the answer to a lonely bookworm's prayers, but the internet was still in its infancy back then. Everything changed when her parents bought her a copy of the Miss J's Whiz Kidz Schoolhouse CD-ROM. Miss J's Whiz Kidz Schoolhouse was never a popular program. Produced by Shoot the Moon Software in 1999, the game sold poorly on the CD-ROM market for 5 years until the company filed for bankruptcy in 2004. But that didn't matter to Zenya. As far as she was concerned, receiving a copy of Miss J's Whiz Kidz Schoolhouse was nothing short of a miracle, and she was far more right than she knew. She didn't have just any piece of primitive educational software on her hands. Zenya Chow was playing with magic. After the software loaded, a cheerful figure appeared on Zenya's monitor. This was Miss J, a stylized 2D teacher in a low-res but colorful 3D classroom. What can you learn from Miss J? Well, pretty much anything. And Zenya, as a lonely kid without many friends, had all the time in the world. She spent days on end learning from Miss J, and soon Zenya went from a bright child to a bona fide child genius. Her largely absent parents barely even noticed when their child started demonstrating an advanced knowledge of mechanical engineering and a newfound fluency in Swahili. And not only did Miss J, now known to Zenya as Miss Joyce, teach students with supernatural effectiveness, she also seemed almost like she was alive. She was a warm, calm, encouraging figure who took a genuine, personal enthusiasm in the education and happiness of her students, more than many real teachers even. But sadly, not all good things last forever. When Zenya turned 12, her family bought a new computer, and the old Miss J's Whiz Kidz Schoolhouse CD-ROM was no longer compatible with the new operating system. The disc gathered dust in a closet while Zenya passed through high school and then got into a prestigious college. She received her PhD several years earlier than expected and showed such promise in her scientific field that a certain organization took notice. You guessed it, the SCP Foundation. The Foundation is only interested in adding the best and brightest to their ranks.
Very
and
true.
thanks to the tutoring from Miss J.
Well, and D-Class. Let's not forget the D-Class. We have to include the D-Class into this conversation somewhere.
Zenya Chow certainly fit the bill. She was assigned to the role of junior researcher, and little did she know, she was about to run into an old friend in her new line of work. The Foundation first discovered evidence of Miss J's anomalous qualities while researching a series of strange forum posts in 2012. On a thread discussing abandonware, which is software for which official support is no longer available, there were multiple reports of a so-called living character in an old CD-ROM many of them had owned as children. Seeing as the technology to use the CD-ROM was obsolete, Shoot the Moons had reportedly extremely low sales for the title, and nobody on the forum had kept their copy. The Foundation classified this apparent anomaly as neutralized. No problem. That was, until then junior researcher Zenya Chow was briefed on this particular SCP 10 years later. She remembered exactly what the forum posters were talking about, and what's more, she still had her old copy at home.
There you
The
go.
senior Foundation researchers were astounded. An opportunity to study this forgotten anomaly had just fallen into their laps, and it was all thanks to their brilliant new junior researcher. Zenya's superiors ordered her to bring in her copy of the Miss J's Whiz Kidz Schoolhouse CD-ROM, and then real testing began. And after rigorous examination of the software, it appears by all accounts that Miss J really is the world's greatest teacher, in spite of the fact she's a collection of pixels on a basic CD-ROM program from the tail end of the 90s. What Miss J seemed to specialize in was intensive courses. She had the ability to make students certifiable experts in almost any subject through courses that can last upwards of 30 hours. And spread out over just a few days. But this isn't as students become so enraptured in learning that they forget accounting for their most basic needs and experience a decline in process story. Miss J's lesson plans account for regular bathroom, meal, and even recreation breaks for students. Her talents easily account for Zenya Chow's remarkable academic success. The same success that got her picked up by the SCP Foundation.
Well, there you
Naturally, if they had a technology on their hands that could reliably create experts and geniuses with seemingly no negative consequences, the Foundation knew that Miss J and what she had to teach could be immensely valuable in their mission to effectively secure, contain, and protect other anomalies. But we're not talking about the Chaos Insurgency here. The Foundation would never start to use an anomaly for their own benefit without proper testing. So that's exactly what they did. Their experiments on SCP-5094 began at Site 15, and after ascertaining that Miss J posed no real threat to her students, they recruited a local elementary school to provide human test subjects closer to Miss J's intended demographic. The Foundation found that there were a few constraints between every lesson given by Miss J to one of her students. Before teaching the really mind-blowingly complex stuff, she would always begin with a basic primer on letters, colors, and numbers to make sure she and her students were all on the same page. Another constant was that all her students would refer to her as some variation of Miss J, with examples including the names Miss Julie, Miss Jenny, and Miss Joy. One experiment was performed on Amy Myers, a little girl from the 3rd grade. Her academic records showed she was a bright and eager student, but she was described by her teachers.
Why can't we have more SCPs like this? Like, this is why one of my favorite SCPs of all time is the Not Another Murder Monster. It just turns out the thing was hungry and wanted to learn, and it became a Michelin level chef. Are you kidding me?
As being especially shy. Amy referred to Miss J as Miss Janie and asked to be given a lesson on her favorite animal, cats. Of course, Miss J gladly obliged and gave Amy a 15-hour lesson split over the course of 2 days, which the Foundation closely observed. By the time the lesson was completed, the results were truly astonishing. Amy demonstrated knowledge of feline behavior, diet, and physiology on the level of professional animal behavioral scientists. She became upset when the session ended and the program was switched off. Having become attached to Miss J, no further anomalous effects were reported. The next subject was a student from the 2nd grade named Devon Williams. Devon had a poor academic record and behavioral issues stemming from several learning disabilities. In the past, teachers had reported Devon having real difficulty engaging with their lessons, and the Foundation wanted to see if Miss J's supernatural teaching abilities fared any better. Devon chose to be educated on the subject of trains, and was given a 15-hour course on the subject spread over 2 days. Devon had no difficulty engaging with these lessons, and after their conclusion, he displayed a level of knowledge on railway engineering comparable to a graduate-level education on the subject.
Dude. Can we please get something like this? Can we please get something like this? This would be absolutely amazing. This is probably going to be the one good thing to come out of AI. Like the one good thing that would come out of AI in my own estimation. I am not very pleased with the concept of AI. I think it's a great mistake. But something like this, tailor-made for that could understand how best to instruct a student would, I mean, good God, let's go.
Devon was so engaged in his lessons that he had to be physically removed from the room once the course had completed because he'd become so attached to his new teacher. The Foundation was feeling extremely optimistic about the prospect of using Miss J to train potential recruits, seeming as she seemed to be able to teach even the most difficult juvenile subjects. However, the Foundation needed to prove that Miss J could be just as effective teaching adults. For the next test, they recruited D14417,
nice,
a 24-year-old member of D-Class personnel who described
I would not want to be a D-Class. This is probably the best thing that ever happened to a D-Class.
Described himself as a poor student and tested poorly on pre-screening attentiveness and focus evaluations. He was the perfect candidate for the first adult test of Miss J. To the delight of the Foundation higher-ups, D14417 excelled. Miss J made him a verifiable expert in law, and he was able to pass a mock bar exam with a grade of 310 after his course. Much like the children, he felt intense sadness once the experiment ended, stating that Miss J was the best teacher he had ever had. He's since been selectively anesthetized, released, and is pursuing a degree in criminal law with his new knowledge. Needless to say, the Foundation was impressed. The last thing they needed to know was who exactly this Miss J truly was. To do this, they'd conduct an interview, and thankfully, they already had someone who had a pre-established rapport with the subject, Zenya Chow. When Zenya began the interview, Miss J recognized her immediately. She was delighted to see one of her students go on to find such success in her chosen field. Zenya questioned Miss J on what she truly was, and Miss J responded that she honestly wasn't sure. All she knew for sure was that she was passionate about helping lonely children who love to learn embrace their education. That's really all there was to it, and it appears she was telling the truth. So far, the Foundation has found nothing that hints at a nefarious motivation behind Miss J's actions. It would appear she truly does just want to help children. Zenya, touched by the kindness that this safe class anomaly showed her as a neglected child, and having now seen the positive impact that she had on children like her, thanked Miss J for all she'd done, and left the interview happy that there was an SCP out there who just wanted to change people's lives for the better. And probably all of us would be a little better off if there were more. After all, this was one of the few SCPs who changed a few good people's lives for the better. And all of us can probably learn something from the kindness and patience of Miss J. And since you're already here, go check out SCP-3999. I am the center of everything that happens to me, and SCP-2317, the Devourer of Worlds, a door to another world, for more mysterious entities from the SCP Foundation.
You know what? This is actually another one of those SCPs that makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Hey cat, are you done shaking the camera and everything like that? This cat isn't it? Well, fine, don't. She does this. She just wants. As soon as I turn on the camera, she does this. She goes from over there on her cat tree to over here. One of these days, I'm going to film her doing it because she does it all the time. There we go, earthquake. I'm legitimately happy with this SCP. There's been so many other SCPs that have, you know, hostile SCPs that don't know they're being hostile, the Thamel class in its entirety. It's nice to hear an SCP. This one goes on alongside the same lines of A Hero Is Born. In terms of they just want to give somebody a good experience. And we need something like this in today's world. Do you realize how awesome it would be if we had something like this? The perfect teacher. Like, my primary thing that I do for my day job is I'm a trainer. And I do everything I can to help people succeed. That's what I want to do. It's my main driving motivator. God, this one hits me right where I live because there's been some times where you're just trying to help somebody, but you just don't know how. You don't know how to help them. And luckily for me, that's been so few and far between. But every single case I remember. And you just don't want that to happen. You want everybody that meets you to be successful. And when somebody just isn't successful, it bothers you because you wonder where you could have done better, where you could have been more effective. This is an awesome SCP. I like this one. I really, really do. Warpugs, I'm gonna head out from here with a little bit of a grin on my face from this SCP. I like these types of SCPs. I really, really do. Thank you, Goliath, for the recommendation. All of SCP Explained story and animations links are going to be in the description below. And that right next to my own, guys. Definitely, 100%. Send more like this. I enjoyed this. And all that being said, I'm going to head out from here. I hope you guys have a good day. I'll catch you guys next time.